I'm 72. I'm an elder now. I'm going to say this, and I hope people get a good laugh out of it. Life without parole doesn't mean anything to me. Anymore. Yeah, okay, whatever. So I put that in some people's minds to let them know. That gives them a
That
real, yeah.
that might be the funniest thing that has ever happened on this show. We've had some good moments. Oh.
Oh, yeah.
But what if you live to 102?
Well, if I lived for that, um, I think everybody will take very, very good care of me, right? Because you have a lot of life learning. So I'm blessed.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome. It's another episode of Whistlekick Martial Arts Radio. And today I'm joined by Mama G. Mama G, thanks for being here. Looking forward to this. So glad you're here. And for everybody out there, please keep in mind, whistlekickmartialartsradio.com is the place to go for all the things that we do with this show notes, transcripts, links. If you want to visit one of our sponsors or partners, you can do that over there, as well, of course, as whistlekick.com for everything we do as an organization, because we're a lot more than martial arts radio. We've got events, we've got all those sorts of things. And of course, we've got our relatively new email for specifically this show, and you can sign up for that at whistlekickmartialartsradio.com. You'll find it in the navigation at the top. Now, this episode, like quite a few of them, if you've been around, is sponsored by Kataro. Kataro makes the absolute best belts in the world. I have several. They're great. What's kind of fun is as we started working with Kataro, the number of people who came out of the woodwork and say, I've been buying Kataro belts for years. They're the best. Well, they're doing something kind of special right now. They've got this autism awareness belt that I've got
Mm.
in my hands right here, and they're donating half of the profits through March and April to the International Society for Autism Research. Qatar is a wonderful company, KATAARO.com. Use the code WK10 for 10% off your order. Every belt they make is made in the US. And I've got a whole stack of notes over here, more things that I could say, but just know they're an awesome company. We're proud to work with them. And with that, also proud to work with Mama G. Thanks for being here. I've been looking forward to talking to you.
Oh,
Is
thank
for
you. Thank
Andrew
you.
sent me a message and said, "Do you know who I booked?" And I was stoked because I've been aware of you for a little while
Well,
and
thank you.
and just
Thank you.
super excited. Thanks for being here.
I appreciate that very much. Aware. I like that. I may bite off of that I'm aware of things. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
I trained at a martial arts school for a few years that they didn't like to use the word no because they
Ah,
thought,
I
I to
understand.
know something is to be really deeply immersed in it. So they would
Right.
say, "I'm aware of it." How are
Aware,
you doing with your second form? I'm aware of it.
aware of it. Yes, I will definitely bite off of that. Definitely. Yes, sir.
Please do.
Okay.
Please do.
Well,
So where should we start today? How do we start talking about you? Do we
me?
want to start chronologically? What do you want to
Um,
do?
okay. I would say that I am blessed
Mm,
that how can I say this? Was able to have a grandmother
mm.
who stayed in this physical world until she was 102.
That's
So I have a lot of her knowledge, how to handle the good, the bad,
mm,
the almost there. And I
yeah.
think in a lot of ways, her knowledge, her enthusiasm is something that really motivated me in regard to, as I may say, the martial
Mm,
sciences.
I saw your use of that word in your
Right.
in your notes. That's a distinction I'm seeing more and more people make. What does that mean to you?
Yes.
What's the difference between martial arts and martial science?
Okay. I'm also a ballet dancer. Okay, over the years.
Okay.
And the important thing looking at the word art. Arts are things that you present. You're presenting
Mm,
dance or music or the combat. Now, science is an application of something. I'm going to use this now. I'm going to run and do this kick and hit somebody upside the head with it. Now, an art is means you demonstrate. So that has
mm,
been the difference when I present to somebody.
yep.
Um, a lot of people go, wow, combat sciences. I said, yes, that's what it's all about.
Mm,
If you're going to try to, how can I care for this? People are listening to me. um, if you have to use your skill, it's
mm,
no longer an art,
mm.
it's a science.
So for a lot of the people watching or listening,
Hmm.
might they be doing both?
They can be doing both. They can.
Okay. Okay.
What do we call these sport competitions? Are more an art because
Mhm.
everyone's getting it because you don't want to hurt anybody. Everybody
Sure.
is getting along. You have, and again, I'll speak a little bit more about this. You people speak of self defense.
Mm,
I speak of self preservation.
mm.
Again, there's a big difference.
Yeah.
Self defense means that the person has already touched you.
Mm,
Nah, I want to perceive the situation before the attack or before whatever is going to happen.
okay. Okay.
So
That makes sense.
so I used to watch a lot of movies where they had battle scenes. I'm a firm believer that if we're going to war, then those people who want to fight can come out on the field and do whatever they're going to do, and the rest of us can sit up in the stand like in the Coliseum and cheer them on.
Sure.
So I'm a very combat directed person, and
Okay.
there's a reason for that.
And I'm glad you say that because your voice and granted we're doing this
Mhm.
over the internet, but your energy
Thank you.
doesn't suggest you being a terribly violent, aggressive person,
No,
but you're talking
no,
about things in a uh, I think a more combative focused way, a more
right.
if I can
Yeah,
violence focused way than a lot of the guests we have on the show, and so
yeah,
there's a bit of a
right.
disconnect there for me.
Are you familiar with the concept again of chess?
Of course, yeah,
Chess, okay.
yeah.
That is something that's essential, especially in the martial sciences. It's strategy.
Mm,
It's okay, I have 8 different kicks, but I may only be able to use 3
mm,
in regard to whoever the opponent is. So if we look at the strategy of chess, you have so many techniques. Some you learn, but you'll never use.
hmm
But it's part of whatever system you're learning.
mm,
And a lot of well, I'm 72, really happy with it. I'm an elder now. Um, I'm going to say this, and I hope people get a good laugh out of it. Uh, Life without parole doesn't mean anything to me. Yeah, okay, whatever. So I put that in some people's minds to let them know. That gives them a
that
real, yeah.
that might be the funniest thing that has ever happened on this show. We've had some good moments. Oh.
Oh, yeah. I
But
said,
but what if you live to 102?
huh? Well, if I lived for that, right? Um, I think everybody will take very, very good care of me, right?
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
you have a lot of life learning,
Yeah.
a lot of life learning. So I'm blessed. I guess
Mm.
what I'll do, a lot of people went, how did I get into all this?
What's your origin story?
My origin story. Okay. There was a time I didn't listen to my grandmother.
Mm.
And when you just get out of college and you think you all that, and oh, I got it together. Yes, I am a Black Panther. I say I am because I followed it. I did it in college. I went to University of Pennsylvania in Philly, um, uh, North Philly. Yeah, the guys that I eventually trained with were from that area of the city. The gentleman, and I use that term loosely, who I met, yes, well, I'll back up a little bit. I went to a Catholic school for all my education, Sicilian Academy,
Mm.
Philadelphia, and we were a little clueless in regard to life. Think of the Harry Potter type environment,
Mm-hmm.
uniforms, all like that. So by the time I got out and met men, whoa, I didn't pick the right one.
Mm.
He was 18 years older than me and came to find out he was a very violent person. Straight out, because the information is there. I have a manuscript, as they say. He maintained a sense of me being jailed in the
Mm.
house with the two kids.
Mm.
And he would beat me incessantly. He broke my back. Yeah, it was pretty violent in there. And in the house, I was terrified. I said, if I
Sure.
go outside, he'll eventually find me and kill me. But then the creator stepped in, and on the day that he decided that I was to die, I didn't.
Mm.
And I jumped out the window. I had to tie my children in the playpen so they couldn't follow me. And I walked 7 blocks to the hospital. And it was the nurse in the emergency room who said, "You got to do something about this." She said, "Next time they're going to bring you in a bag." I went, "Okay, I got this." So um, I basically told my grandmother, "I'm going to run away for a while. I'm going to hide in the streets," which is what I did. Women's shelter,
Mm.
slept on the subway with my kids, as they say, yada, yada, yada. Um, then I met the members of Vita Saana, African Fighting System. People go, "Well, what's that?"
Okay. I just want to get a mark on the calendar here. So I'm doing some math. So this is early to mid 70s?
Yes, it
Okay.
is about, oh, by then when I met them, it was about 1978. Because
Okay.
when I was in
Okay,
the
later.
women's shelter, um, we were, my children were very young. That's a
Hmm.
blessing. They don't remember any of this,
Mm.
absolutely none of it.
That's good.
And when I have two birth sons, and I used to tell them, "We're going on a journey and get on the subway and ride the subway and sleep and have fun." I lost my roommate, was in the women's shelter. Um, God bless the ancestor. She was killed by her husband. And I said, "No, I'm not doing that. And I went looking because I had seen a karate movie. I said, I'm gonna go learn. I'm
Which
gonna
one?
um okay. It was a guy and a woman, and they were
Mm,
in a forest somewhere or something. I think it was a Japanese. He looked like a samurai. I kind of remember the movie, and she was incredible. It
mm,
wasn't like Karen Shepherd or anybody more modern. It was before. And she was great. She was fighting and swinging in the trees. I said, I'm going to learn to do that. And what really motivated me was um, I went to see my grandmother that night and I said, I'm going to learn how to do karate. And she's like, okay, no problem. Right. And all of a sudden there was a banging on the door. My ex had found out where I was, and he's
mm.
banging on the door and he's trying to get in and he's kicking the door and we're holding the door and I said, call the cops. Call the cops. He's here. He's gonna kill us all. And she said, open the door. I was like, what? Step away from the door. I was like, lady, do you understand what I'm telling you, right? She said, step aside. I stepped aside. He kicked the door in, and she pulled out the chainsaw. I went, self preservation. That's
That is
everything.
a good illustration of self-preservation versus self-defense.
Right, right. And she was swinging it, and he was running for his life, and he ran out the door. And that was, I was like, aha, I got it.
Yeah.
So I said, maybe swinging through the trees isn't it? But started walking the streets in North Philadelphia, just looking.
Mm,
And I met one of the brothers, and his name was Basil. And Basil said, hey, what's up? I was like, oh, yeah. Now here I was kind of, how could you say, not streetwise at all. I was like, oh God, oh goodness, now what do I do? He said, what's wrong? I said, there's somebody trying to kill me. He
mm,
said, okay, come with me. And they were at the Temple of the Black Messiah, which is right Temple University now. And I went in there, and these are these huge, big black men who were in there, and they said, oh, by the way, I'm part Ethiopian Jewish, but anyway. So I walk in and they tease you back then. And they said, and what are we gonna do with this little half breed? I said, I need to learn how to kill. They
mm,
were like, oh. I said, I don't wanna hiya, I wanna know how to kill. They're like, yeah, this is a real one here, right? And that's how it all started that
mm,
day. And I went home very happy. We had our little basement apartment by then. Things had moved. I
mhm,
had a job now. I put that education, I had a job.
mhm,
And he showed up again. The ex showed up. Well, I was
mm,
like, gosh darn, now what? I didn't know that those brothers had followed me home. And
mm,
when he jumped out from behind the tree, they jumped out from behind the tree, laid his leg on the street. And I'm being honest, if anybody's listening, they laid his leg and they stepped on it
mm,
and they broke it in half.
mm.
My grandmother moved. She had the chainsaw, they broke the leg, right?
Yeah.
And they told him, if you ever again come near this woman, it won't be your leg.
Mm,
So I said, I like these guys. Yeah, right. right straight to the point. My grandmother had met them over there, and she liked them too, like
Mm.
that. So that's how it all started. And I trained 5 days a week after work, take my student, who were my children, on the bus till like 9, 10 o'clock at night. And when I would just cut, it would never happen to me again.
Mm.
That was it. I mean, my back is you can, when I go to different places, people can see my back and they're like, wow. I said, no, that was just the beginning.
Mm.
And I was crazy back then. By then, it was like
How so? What do you mean by crazy?
I was insane. Um, I all I wanted to do was fight, and how to,
Why?
because it was never going to happen again.
Oh.
Never.
So it wasn't that you wanted to fight because you wanted to hurt people. You wanted to fight because you wanted to practice,
Right.
because you wanted to be sure that
I wanted to be
you'd be
sure I
okay.
had it right.
Yeah.
And in the Temple of the Black Messiah, it was a very small place. So when you had like 15 people in a very small room. So you learned how to duck and weave. And because the head founder, he loved martial arts movies. The man, God rest the ancestor, JC Wanzo. Oh my gosh, he just loved them. So whatever you saw in the movies, he would come and have us do. But he was able to have met somebody who did the African combat sciences. And I said, well, how come we don't have this in the movies?
Mm.
So where did that all come from? Hmm. Thus, my behavioral sciences, urban anthropology energy came out.
Mm.
And I started researching libraries. Back then, it was the beginning of the revolution concepts. There were some books, and I said, there's got to be more. It's got to be. And that's what I did. I researched. And of course, people said, well, um, uh, Africans could not have had martial arts. I said, everybody has some kind of fighting system. Everybody kicks derriere in a war. They just do, hand to hand. They didn't have atom bombs and all that. You got out there and you fought. So, historically, taking it all the way back, Africa is approximately 47,000 years old. So if we take it way, way back, we find different fighting systems. There are about 155 combat systems. And okay, the names that people know are Shaka Zulu.
Hmm.
The British did the series on that. Um, then everybody talks about Alexander of Greece. Well, Alexander of Greece ran into somebody, he ran into a woman who was not playing with him. She was a
Mm.
Candace. And he rode in, and there she sat with all her archers and he said, nah, maybe I don't want to do this. Maybe I'm gonna leave this part of Africa alone. So he left. Uh, you have people speak about Hannibal.
Hmm.
What people don't know is that Hannibal did not use African elephants. African elephants are very they have a bad attitude. They don't want to. I'm not getting out there and fighting and getting scratched up. No, not doing it. So he reached out to the East Indian culture. Their elephants love to fight. yeah, okay, let's go stomp somebody today, right? So he used Indian elephants.
Mm.
And the historical value, the martial sciences that I found went from Africa to India. You have the great Sikh warriors. I mean, that's a whole nother thing there. And then into China. Why? Because of Kublai Khan. He was a businessman. He said, "Okay, come on, show me some stuff and to
Mm.
travel," and that's how it moved. Um, so I said, I'm going to be the one to bring African martial sciences to the world.
I want to pause there.
Okay.
So, longtime audience members know, here we are. This is episode 1000 and something.
Okay.
We've had hundreds of people on the show who have trained in karate and taekwondo, and a
Mhm.
few dozen who have trained in judo and capoeira, and
Right.
probably even a dozen people who have trained in some of the historical European martial arts.
Right.
If I'm remembering correctly, you are our third person to even have any firsthand experience with these
Okay.
traditional African
Okay.
martial combat systems,
Common systems. Yes, sir.
which tells me that at the time you're making this choice that this is what you're going to do, you must have been kind of up against the wall in terms of resources.
Of
If
course.
somebody wanted to learn karate back then, or judo, or pretty much any other martial art,
Mm-hmm.
you had books available,
Right.
there were some movies,
Right.
and if you asked around enough, there were probably a
Okay.
few people you could go train with.
Right.
And
Uh,
my understanding is that is not what was happening
Not at
for
all.
these traditions you're talking about.
Not at all. In fact,
Okay.
at that time, there were five of us. We
Hmm.
hadn't really all met yet. God rest the ancestor again. Kalinda E, Detroit, Michigan, one of the most incredible African martial science teachers.
Hmm.
Of course, Humwanzo. Now you mentioned capoeira, and I'm gonna kind of put a little caveat in here.
Okay.
Um, I used to always end up getting in fights because somebody, well, let me see what you got. I'm like, okay, come on, to the floor. There's a gentleman by the name of Dennis Newsom. He's a mestre now. One of my dearest friends. Now, I lived in Germany for 5 years, and he had this thing about who is this woman who's out here doing this, and he had come to Germany, and he said, "I'm coming to handle to fight you." Really, that's what he said. I said, "Blank,
This
blank,
is an
blank."
80s. This sounds
It
so
was the
80s.
80s. It was 80s. I said, "Blank, blank, blank. Bring it." And there we are in the home of champions, Baumholder, Germany,
Hmm.
in the gym, and he walks in, and I'm ready. In fact, Ray Mercer was there at the time, so we got up in the
Okay.
ring, right? And Ray was like, "Deep, right? This is gonna be good." And Dennis tried to do a kick, and I really tried to hurt him. And he
Hmm.
got up. He said, "Wow, you know what you're doing." I said, "Yeah, I do." And he said, "Wonderful. This is really good, and we can get along." I said, "Of course we can. We
Hmm.
can get along now."
That's all it took. He just wanted to know that you knew what you were doing.
Right. That's all it was.
Hmm. Okay.
So even again with capoeira, I did my research, found out, and I'm gonna say this again. I'm gonna say something. The Woman King's a joke. Anyway, did I say that about the movie?
You. This is
Okay.
your episode. You can say whatever you want.
When I and the reason I'm saying this is because First of all, the Dahomey female warriors, Queen and Zinga, where the Jinga came from,
Mm.
they were polyandrous. They were not virgins. Polyandrous means they had multiple husbands,
Hmm.
but they couldn't put that in the movie. They said, no, we can't put that in the movie. So, my, how can I say this? My journey was to find correct information
Mm.
for anything that was put in the media, especially for our young people. In the Dahomey warriors and the slave trade and all, I'm not even going to get into that. Um, it went to South America. It went to the islands. My grandfather was from Martinique,
Hmm.
and you have Dombe. So I got some of that. I understood about that. So the history is very important. They, how can I say, they concealed the African martial sciences. They did
So,
it
so
for a reason.
that's the story that most people are taught around capoeira is the idea
Right,
that, we're taking some of these combative traditions, we're keeping some musical tradition,
right,
we're doing our best to hide. And
right.
no, capoeira as it is played as a game is not
Game, right.
perfectly analogous to
No,
using it in combat,
right.
but what
It's,
I'm hearing you say is that there were other, let's call
it
them
was,
implementations that were
and
similar depending
right.
on the region.
Um,
And that's where you started doing your
that's
research.
where I started doing my research.
Okay.
The Angolo is the predecessor to capoeira, and it
Mhm.
comes from Angola.
Mhm.
I have my research document letter from the country of Angola.
And there's
Yeah.
still a style of capoeira that is
There's
called capoeira Angola.
capoeira Angola, and that's where it all came from.
Hmm.
Um, so I got to do that. Then I found out because you mentioned money. I like money. Money's cool.
Money has to
Money,
enter the equation somewhere because we've got to
right?
eat, right?
You got to eat. And my sons were going. They're teenagers now, and they were always
Mhm.
hungry. So I said, I got to make some money. How can I make some money? Competition.
Mhm.
Entering competition. So I started to go to the different events that they had in the States. And I even had my one ring on. This is from John Burdock,
Mhm.
Ballabalt. And the reason I like this so much, not only did I win the grand championship, but I made money. No, let me stop.
Also looks like leave a good mark on somebody's head.
Yes, yes. I'm going to take it off now because it's real heavy. So I was like, this is great. I can go out here and teach
Mhm.
and make money.
Mhm.
Never wore a gi, didn't wear a belt. And so I got in a little bit of trouble sometimes when I come out dressed like that. You know, who the hell are you, right? You know,
What were you wearing?
what
If not like a gi or
African,
something?
depending on the system in relation to
Mhm.
the culture, I would wear
Okay.
that outfit.
Okay. So you were taking what you were researching,
Yes,
practicing, training, and then implementing it, bringing it out to competition, not just as authentically in the way you would use it, but in what you would wear
right,
to
complete
respect the regional
right
differences.
from the
Okay, that's
differences,
that's really
and
cool.
I would put the face markings on, which terrified some people
Oh,
because the first thing they think, "Oh gosh, she's a witch," and I go, "No, no, I'm not a witch. This is not it, right?" You know. Um, One day I was at East Coast competition, and that's all I'll say. I'm not going to say where, but my sons came running out of the dressing room. They had gone to change and come in. They're
mm,
crying and the tears are. And I'm like, what the heck is wrong with y'all? And they said, they're in there. They're talking about, because I have won that.
Mm.
And they're talking about you. And this is terrible. And they're calling you an itch. And I'm like, okay, what you go and do is go back in there and you tell them to put doctor in front of that itch. And they haul butt across the floor. Yeah, she's doctor, right? And I'm like, did my kids really do this? Those four guys did not come out for an hour because I sat right there and waited for
Mm.
them. I did. And they didn't
People
come
are
out.
brave behind closed doors.
That's right. So I that anger
Hmm.
came out again. These videos are on YouTube.
Hmm.
They're on me with the weapons. Um, I thank Nwanzo for liking weapons because I love all the movie stuff.
Hmm.
I have high regard for Karen Shepard. I had the opportunity to meet her, and uh, the hooks. I'm very good at using the chain. I'm very good. Dennis Brown showed me some things. I was like, oh, I can do the sit and all like that. Some people say I'm full of entertainment. Trust me. Um,
I can tell. I'm here too. I can have a good
um,
time.
I was at an event and I did the sit thing. You know where you lay on your back and you roll with the chain. You seen?
Mm.
Yeah,
I've
I
seen
know
that.
that. And you jump up and down and you doing all this. And there was a man. He was 85 years old, and he said, "Damn, I wish I was 40 again. I'd like to get a hold of that. Look at how she." And I'm like, I stopped. I said, "You need to be quiet." He said, "But you're so powerful." I said, "Don't say it. Let it go." Right? And you're probably saying, I'll say if somebody wants to learn to use it, the chain, the sit. My instructor, because I couldn't do it at first. I just
Mm.
couldn't get up off the ground. He said, "You have children, right?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You had sex to have those kids?" I went, "Yeah." He said, "Think about that." I went, "Okay, got it. Push, got it, no problem." And oh yeah, I'm out there. But these are life lessons
Sure.
in regard to the martial sciences. Did I fight in competition? Heck yeah, yeah, yeah. Lots of trophies behind me, and
Mm.
I had one young lady, and the video is on YouTube. She was 19, sweet young girl. We were in Germany, and she said, "I don't want to fight no old woman," because I was 32, 33. I was like, okay,
She
all
was
right.
old. When did
Huh?
32 become old?
Yes. She said, okay. I said, okay, cut me a break. Let's just try it. And I hit her very hard within 10 seconds.
Mm.
And she was very upset. And her instructor said, "You didn't have to hit her that hard." I said, "Well, I'm old. I'm old. Remember?" And he started laughing. I started laughing. Oh, and before I forget, the other great person um, in the whole thing is that there are famous people who were at these competitions
Mm.
in the 80s. They were incredible, and they would stand on the side and they would teach.
Mm.
They would help you. So that's something that I really they need to make a movie about those people, those great instructors who stood on the side and taught, because that's how you really learn, by listening to in the beginning. We didn't have headgear, handgear back then, and that was a little rough. So, oh yeah, and I think I sent you one of my certificates from one.
I, yeah, I've got
Yeah,
one right here.
he even
We
put his
can
thumbprint
we can
on it.
link this in, or this will be in the images.
Okay, yeah,
Um,
you see it.
yeah,
Yes,
that's definitely signed by Peter Urban.
there you go. There you go. And I talked to that. Oh my gosh, we used to talk on the phone a lot. He said, "You're doing really good. I'm proud of you. You're doing your history. You're giving more than just kick and punch."
Yeah.
Peter Urban, just incredible. There's
I mean, Peter Urban, certainly, if anybody knows who he is, knows his
right
passion for history within
history,
martial traditions, right? I mean,
martial
I
tradition.
can't imagine anyone, I could think of a couple people now, but I don't know that I can think of anyone from modern history that would more appreciate what you were
Right,
doing
right.
than Peter Urban.
He would. This is great, and he would clap, and he
Hmm.
gave me that. It's not a rank. It's just to
Right.
say that right,
Special something, special recognition
special recognition. Yes,
is what I'm seeing.
and he was very pleased with it. The outfits I would wear
Mm.
and all like that. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah,
There were
that's cool.
people who understood history. Um, I'll just say this. Did I ever get married again? Yeah.
Hmm.
How many times? Uh, and it's kind of hard when you're an anomaly.
What do you mean by that?
Okay.
What makes you an
Technically,
anomaly?
I should not be able to do the things I do.
Mm,
I should not have that skill.
mm, okay.
I know where it came from, but it can be it can mess you up for finding a date. And then when you um I remember going on a competition with a guy and I didn't tell him that I was a part of the competition. And we're just laughing and talking and having a great time. And he pulls a green belt out. I went, "Oh, that's so cool. That's really nice." And then we get there and he comes out in his gi and ties a belt. I'm like, "Oh, really nice." And I had to go get changed and
This
I
poor
come
man.
yeah, I
I
come
feel
out
so bad for.
with the weapons and stuff like that, right? And he's like, they
Oh,
call my name for black belt division, and now he's like, "Oh, oh." I'm like, "Well, I guess that's it, huh?" Right? That can be very, very difficult. I've been
mm,
married a few times,
oh,
and because of it, I'm an anomaly,
mm,
and it can be. My oldest son would say, "My mom can kick your dad's." I said, "Y'all need to stop saying that." I
even
had,
if it's true.
but I had a father come up to the school one time and say, "My son said that your son said that you could." I said, "Sir, he doesn't even know what he's saying. We're just let this go right now." But this is how it is.
Mm,
It's a skill. It's a talent. But how can I put this? If I have to switch and become Jamala Maisha, because that was my name, I am Eusi Ualimu Jamala Maisha. I
mm,
was the first and only woman to bring African martial sciences to the international level and take that Vita Saana test with those guys,
Hmm.
and they beat the crap out of me. But you had to pay. If I wanted to get that title,
Hmm.
you had to take the test. Had to. It was
As
5 years ago.
you're
Yeah.
doing this research and this training and you're doing these competitions, I imagine that you mentioned something earlier about documentation as well. You're writing this down. Are you writing books? Are
Yes.
you giving seminars? Are you teaching classes? How are you spreading and sharing this?
The young people who are part, well, we have an extent. The Akuru program eventually became the Rich program,
Mhm.
for students who wanted to know more about history. And we've done video. We've done not major stuff. I have the things on the YouTube. I have a manuscript and I'm
Mhm.
updating that
Okay.
to add on to it since we did that back in 2012. So I have to, that's been 10 years. Let's see, how can I say this? I've seen a lot because of social media
Mhm.
and what do they call it? AI.
Mhm.
And I tell people you cannot catch a bullet in your teeth. That's not going to happen. I've seen people get hurt trying to emulate things in the movies.
Mhm.
Um, what is his? Um, some of the great instructors, they tell you don't do what you see on the movies is not real life.
Sure.
So you have to be careful with that. Um, weapons, the weapons that we use, the hooks, for example. I explain. See, we put it. It's based on the law of motion, centrifugal force. That's it has a science behind it. There's nothing magical or mystical about it. Um, I think some people they think you're I don't know. You see things on these social media where the guys, the men, they use some air thing and the people fall over and all like this. I'm like, come on, really? Why are you going to do that? Now, I believe that there is kinetic energy. I do.
Mhm.
I'm a scientist. Therefore, there's some things that may happen, but not. I hate Walt Disney. I'm gonna say this out loud. I hate him. Let me tell you why I hate Walt
Okay.
Disney. He took all the great moral stories, the teaching stories, like
Mhm.
don't go in the forest because the wolf is there and the wolf will eat you up. The real teachers were Brothers Grimm. I love horror movies.
Those stories, if people know
Oh,
those stories are dark.
yes, but they're like that to teach.
Right.
And in their story, the little mermaid, she died. Why? Because she went to the witch and got her legs and then tried to go get the prince. He had married somebody else. Now she's hysterical. She runs, she jumps off the cliff, and she drowns. Why? She'll never fin anymore. And these are the how I try to show the young people. Walt Disney did that to make people feel good. Pocahontas was a real person. She was kidnapped. She was taken to London. I go to London all the time. And she died of smallpox. She didn't live happily ever after and with the flower. That didn't happen like that. So this is another thing in the martial arts or the martial sciences we have to look at because it's never a happy ending. Anytime you start combat, there's never a happy ending. You're gonna have a winner and you're gonna have somebody who gets their butt kicked.
Mhm.
That's just it. Thus the gladiators. Thus the Colosseum. There can only be just one but it's a totally different. Ballet is happy until you get your feet, and your feet are all jacked up from the shoes. That's there's a back to everything.
Absolutely.
And when they did Black Panther, and I said, "Wow, this was cool."
As a Black Panther, what did you think of that movie and the titling
They
of that movie?
um okay, because it was a cartoon, not what did comic. My young people, illustrated. Yeah, I got it. A cartoon.
Yep.
Um, that was okay. Uh,
Right.
Panthers are black. Okay, so they used an image. That's perfectly fine. Um, they gave it's kind of like Coming to America, the image of
Hmm.
Africa. We had palaces, we had money, and the Moors were very rich and blah blah blah.
Mhm.
So no, we were not running
The
around.
richest man of all time, adjusted for
Right,
inflation and everything, was by far an African
right,
man.
right, right.
I'm trying to
So
remember his name. Anyway.
well, they talk about Mansa Musa, but it wasn't him. It was his uncle,
Hmm.
Abu Bakari. He he had money. He would give money to everybody, and he ended up here in South Carolina. He brought ships over, but that's a whole. Their backstories. I
Right.
love the backstory. So what we're looking at is everybody has um, a past, an image. You have rich people everywhere. So the movie was to change the image of African descendants not being able to fight,
Hmm.
because the concept of slavery was so immersed that you had roots and stuff. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with it. But let's show the other side.
Hmm.
Uh, when I went to England, to London, you could not start there. What is that called when they have the jousting and everything? You could not start it without a Moor being
Hmm.
there. I have pictures of me at the Tower of London pulling a, what do you call it, a catapult,
Hmm.
pulling it. And then they didn't put rocks on that. They put feces. Yes, that's what they put on it to make the people sick over the wall. They would take the stuff from people who died from those diseases and put it in. Yeah, not rocks. I was like, oh, okay. But you had to have a Moor. So there's history is so vital to know where something came from. Who is that? Yasuki, the young man who passed, who was in Black Panther. The young man,
Hmm.
he did a lot of movies.
Chadwick Boseman, right?
Chadwick Boseman. He
Yeah.
was working on Yasuki,
Hmm.
the Japanese, the African who went there and became a samurai.
Hmm.
There's in one of the temples, it says on the top, you can't be a samurai without a bit of black blood. And what they meant was African blood because of Yasuki, this place wherever he was. And what the Japanese, when they saw him, they were trying to scrub his collar off because they had never
Hmm.
seen that. So he was trying to do that movie, but he transitioned. Prayerfully somebody will still do it.
Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
history is so good. It's important because if you don't do history, if you don't do it, then you miss the best part. Why do why do you do something if you don't know why you do it?
So let's connect some of these dots here, right? You're I think a lot of the people in the audience have had a lower intensity
Mhm.
version
Yes.
of your journey, right?
Okay.
The recognition that history matters, that discovering where things come from not only gives context for it in a interesting academic way, but
Hmm.
can help you better with the way you train
Right.
and are able to use what you've learned,
Right.
as well as the desire to advance things or
Hmm.
rediscover things and take them and pass them on
Okay.
for others. Now, I mean, we talked towards the beginning that we've had very few folks from the African martial
Hmm.
traditions come on this show. So what would you advise everyone, knowing that everybody that is watching and listening today comes
Okay.
from such dramatically different traditions? What do you want them to take from your life and your journey with all of this?
For them to understand that, okay, I'm going to speak of another person, Victor Moore.
Sure.
Victor Moore. Okay.
Victor Moore's been on the show.
He
Was very thankful to have that conversation with him.
he is funny. He is so funny. And I asked him, and there are pictures now. There's film of him out there with Bruce Lee and all,
Hmm.
like. I said, how did it feel when your hand touched his face? Yeah, I asked him that. He went, felt good. I was like, okay. Why did it feel good? He said, it's kind of like somebody saying you can't do something and then you do it. Whether or not you do it ever again doesn't matter. You did it. You did it then. I did it once,
Yep.
regardless. So, um, how can I want to be very careful, because I can get myself in hot water with this. The people who were on your show, was it just, you don't have to say names? Is my question. How long ago was this?
There's
And I
one I'm remembering, and I think it was within 2 or 3 years.
Okay. Now think
Yeah.
about that. This has all come within the last 15 years, maybe.
Sure. Well,
Maybe.
they
Right.
must have been. I mean, the show we
Right.
started the show 10 years ago.
Right. So now it's like, African, I can talk about. No. When we did it, the few that were there, um, we're talking about back in the woods, quietly, because a person might get offended by certain things.
Hmm.
Um, and then it becomes violent.
Yeah.
And my whole thing is, I'm not wanting to get into violence again. Not that way, um, not having bodies, not, no. If I'm stuttering, yeah, no violence. Um, the African martial sciences has been around as long as the continent has been. There's been fighting systems. There's just no way around it. Um, the reason, and this is what I researched and what I found out. The reason that the media, when they started doing the movies, the karate movies and stuff, they did not use Japanese people in the movies. They used Chinese or Hispanic or whatever. And the reason
Hmm.
was because of World War II
Right.
and because of the bombing in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This is why Bruce Lee used the Japanese weapon. That's a Japanese weapon. It is not a Chinese weapon
Right.
in no way, shape, fashion, or form.
You're talking about nunchaku.
Right. So meet again. Media can bring information that isn't quite correct. Um, I shared with a gentleman at a competition. He said, "How did you know that?" I said, "Because it's in the books. It's in books, and you just gotta look for it." Um, um, Going back to Peter Urban. Peter Urban used the concept of knowing your history in his teachings.
Hmm.
I've been on a couple podcasts and stuff, and they were all Japanese instructors. And I asked the question, could a person who's not Japanese ever reach the ultimate level of being someone who's revered as a Japanese instructor? In other words, could a chicken ever reach the level of a duck? No, can't do it. It's a bloodline thing. It
Mm.
just is. And there's nothing wrong with that. Not a thing. Um, People say, "Oh, well, you can look." No, not quite. It's a tribal thing, and we have to look at these. Um, and the Japanese instructor said, "No, it won't happen." I was like, "Oh, okay." And somebody said to me, "Well, that's racist. That's prejudice." I said, "No, no, it's not. It's understanding your system." What's
Mhm.
the movie Independence Day? When the Martians or whoever decide to come back, right? We're all going to have to work together because we all have different skills and talents. And communication is so important. Therefore, they use Morse code. It wasn't verbal. So you have drums, you have all kinds of things. But combat, a punch is a punch.
Mm.
A punch, you don't have a Japanese punch or a Chinese punch or a punch upside your head in your lips is a punch or a kick. It just is. And then you have
Mm.
blood. No one technique is better than the other. The technique is how you impact your opponent.
Mm.
That's what makes it good. Um, Self preservation, right? Remember we talked about that?
Yeah.
I can make somebody look. And then after I make them look, I'm going to get you. You ready? You sure? I can make them look and react.
Mm.
You see what I just did?
Yeah.
Okay? And when they look and when they react, you mine out this chess strategy. You can do those pretty kicks and all like that. Okay, I'm going to do this.
Mhm.
I'm running my mouth. Madison Square Garden, Felt Forum, 19, 1979. Okay, okay. They got me in some fight up there. I mean, I still have the thing. I've never seen a woman that big in my life because women did not have weight class back then. You got who you got. I stepped in the ring and said, "Oh my God." She was huge. I was like, "Oh my goodness." And I was very tiny then. And my instructor said, "Just do the best you can. Just do the best you can." I say, "Really?" I get out there and I had the kick, the flash, flash, speed, all like this. It's called the Suzuki punch. Am I saying that correctly? Suzumi. It's a Japanese punch that goes in and it turns. Well, she hit me in my
Mm.
breast. and I went from a size 38C to a 32A.
Quite a shock.
Yeah. I dropped to my knees. I couldn't breathe. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I can't move. And she said, ugh. I said, I don't want to stand up. I don't want to get up. I want to stay right here. I want to roll over to the side. My
Mm,
instructor said, look, either you stand up or when we get you back, we're going to laugh at you forever because the look on
mm,
your face was funny. I said, well, I may not win, but I'm damn sure going to stand up. I stood up. Thank God the clock was there was a few flicks and it was done. I saw her years later and she said, I had to show you my techniques. Y'all don't have them. I was like, I will remember that forever. We had lunch, we had a great conversation. And you know who else was fabulous? Well, really, I mean, you have Linda Denley, Arlene Lamas. I know Linda and I were at an event. They were going to give us 1/3 of the money that they were going to give the guys. I was like, what's this mess? So we decided we ain't fighting, just here, split the money, and that's it. Arlene Lamas, she got to go to the Olympics, and that wasn't easy. Women were not looked at. And even back
mm,
further, women had to fight in the men's division.
mhm,
There were no women's division. Weapons always went in the men's division.
mhm.
They didn't have it. So as we move forward now, we have women's division, weight division. We didn't have that back then. So you knew what you were getting into when you got into it.
Mm.
Now we have headgear, hand gear, feet gear, all kind of gear. And I have an issue with that because God forbid you ever get hit in the street and you're used to having all that on. You're hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, my instructors always said, would you rather your first time getting hit for real be out on the
Right,
street? The first time you get into it, some kind of
right.
nope, nope. So we did both. But a lot of
You
schools, you're
had
right. A lot of
right.
schools
You had to
only
do that.
wear
Right.
gear.
Only wear gear. So and it worries me, with that. Um, if you're going to do football, okay, you get hit.
Hmm.
Basketball. Now they're getting hit.
Mm.
I'm seeing that. But the African martial sciences, there's no gear.
Mm.
No gear ever, ever. I respect those who do Muay Thai because you ain't kicking me in my legs. No, no, you're not doing that. I like my body, in
Mm.
one piece. So we have all of these. Um, how can I say this? Guns, if I can throw this in there, and I know I'm running my mouth.
This
I
it, this is your time. This
Oh,
is your
okay,
time. We're gonna start.
okay,
We're gonna start to wrap in a little bit. But yeah,
okay.
don't be
Guns.
afraid of stirring the pot.
Okay, don't be afraid. Okay, guns. Okay, for cowards.
Mm.
If I can see war or something like that, but our young people now, and I work with these young people, and because of the media and all this, they have these guns and they go and they just shoot some. No, that's a coward. That's a coward. You get out there and you fight that person hand to hand. We'll put you back together, but you don't run up and in a group of people and just shoot guns. You don't do
Mm.
that. That's wrong. I do a lot of gun disarmament. I I train
Mm.
with that, and I went to some event, and this guy came out with a gun. What are you gonna do? And I hurt him. I twisted. I didn't mean to hurt him with his arm, but it was seeing that.
Mm.
Oh, you want to? Let me show you what can happen. You might have it. Now, ask me if I would ever use a gun.
Mm.
Would I?
I'm going to guess only if there was no other option.
And what's it mean? On the street, I maim or I kill.
Hmm.
I do one or two on the street. I have a recurve to make my little squirrels act like they know. Y'all see this? Right? You been stabbing the trees. Stay out of my trash can. Right? So there are now I haven't shot and I shoot past them, but I wouldn't kill a little squirrel. Right. The raccoon almost got it, but you know, I'm terrible, aren't I?
I don't think so at all. Where do you live? Where?
South Carolina,
Okay.
Columbia, South Carolina,
Okay.
and I've been blessed to have lots of land and the animals and the squirrels. And I had a
Yeah.
dog run at me one time, and I kicked him, and he stepped back and he looked at me like, "How's this old lady kick me like that?" And he turned around and just walked off, right? Like maybe that's not what I want to do right now. Your opportunity. This podcast is something I'm grateful for, uh, and to say things that how can I put this? The great people. Um, Leo T. Fong. I was blessed to work with him for 4 days, and he's a funny guy. He's he's funny.
Great things about him.
Huh? Oh yeah.
I've heard nothing but great things about him.
Yes, yes. And we had our dinner together, and um Ultimate Fighting Champion, first one, he was there.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, what was his name? That's a shame. I'm getting older. So I've worked with the people who made things happen. That's
Hmm.
been the blessing. You notice I haven't mentioned some people,
You
and
That's okay.
that's okay.
That's
All
okay.
right. Any question you want to ask me about anything in particular before we?
Um, just one.
Okay.
Would you do any of it differently?
Yes. Yes, I would. Oh, that's what I was thinking. I'm sorry. Dan Severn. Oh, he's
Mm.
an
Yeah.
excellent person. Great, great, great person. Okay. I would not have made my children, what do you call that? Be a part of train, because they trained till they were 16. And
Mm.
then, Mom, I want to do basketball.
Mm.
I don't want to do, I would not have forced them into what I do. I wouldn't do that. Because, I mean, it was okay, but not what they wanted to do at the time. I would um, start writing a little sooner.
Mm.
Now I'm trying to hurry up and write, make sure all the stuff I ran my mouth, make sure it's down and written. Um, uh, who else? I would work with women more,
Mm.
even though every now and then I'll do a women's class. Oh, about 95% of my training has been with men. My team is all guys. And I feel I don't like to see a woman have to, because I was like that. I'm like,
Mhm.
ugh. No, I would like to be, you know. a little more genteel.
Sure.
So those would be the things I would do differently, you know. But I've had a hell of a time. It's been fun. It really has. I got to travel and see all that kind of stuff, and yeah, it's been fun. It's been a
Good.
good time.
And you're not done.
Huh?
And you're not done.
Oh, I'm not. No, I just competed not too long ago. Cookie Melendez had her competition. I went there in Lang City. Oh, Alan
Hmm.
Goldberg. I'd go up
Hmm.
there and hang out there, and oh yeah. And they said, "Darn, old lady can still kick." I said, "Yeah, tell you something.
If you keep doing it,
You
you
keep
can
doing."
keep doing it.
That's right. But I appreciate. How can I say this? Back in the day when there wasn't anything like this, and
Mm.
all we had were film. You know, you take the VHS tapes and all that. Um, this is the blessing, as long as it can be positive and help people.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's all. That's all I ask. That people don't put things up there that's negative.
Right.
You know,
We work hard to stay positive with everything that we
and
do
I see.
because, just because it's different doesn't mean it's bad. In fact, I think
Right,
the differences are the best part
right.
because it gives us something to talk about. If we all did the same thing for the same reason, that'd be a really boring
There
world.
would, I'm telling you, the Martians would get us. Independence Day, we wouldn't survive.
They still might. They still might, but not today.
Not today. Right,
Not
right.
today.
Okay,
I am going to have you close us up in just a moment, but
okay.
before that, do you've talked about some of these writings, these things you're working on. Do you have a website
No,
or ways for people to stay
not
up?
even
Social
what
media? Do
what
you do anything like that?
I do social media. We have the older YouTubes, but what I will
Okay.
do for you through your, I will get you a copy of the manuscript and a few other
Oh, thank you.
things so you can have it.
Oh, that'd be great. I appreciate that.
You know,
Because
because
I'm
you
sure I'm
don't.
not the only one that's interested. So as you
So
do finish things, make sure that you let us know so
I will.
we can let the audience know about the cool stuff
I
that you're doing, getting all this
I definitely
documented.
will. Right.
All
You
right.
know, and they can go and they can see me all dressed up. Do you know why people put that paint on? They put it on so you don't marry your brother, your sister in Africa. That's their markings. That's tattoos. I got tattoos. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Okay.
this, oh, very quickly.
Yeah.
This sign here, this
Hmm.
is people have, it's called an ankh.
Yeah. I know that as an Egyptian symbol.
Well, we're going to adjust the name
Okay.
just a little bit.
Sure.
Rather than Egypt, which is Greek, we're going to say Kemet. Kemet was the name before the Greeks
Okay.
got there. And everyone, what's his name? Not Alexander, Emperor Constantine. He had a problem with symbols.
Mm.
This is the female womb. This is the phallus. And if you put it together, you get a baby or life.
Mm.
This is the symbol of life. Now, what Constantine, who was a businessman who wanted to control everything, which is why all the holidays are together, he
Mm.
closed off the top. And that's where we get the cross from in
Hmm.
as a symbol. He didn't want women to have anything.
Okay.
That's what he did. But anyway, so just let me know, what should I do?
In a moment, I'm going to have you give the audience some final words because I do want them to hear you last.
Okay.
So I'm going to say a couple things now. Just a reminder to everybody out there, uh, share the show, share this episode. I bet you know half a dozen people that would be mad if they didn't get the chance to check out this episode because you didn't share it with them. So please do sign up for the email list at whistlekickmartialartsradio.com. There's a link at the top. And make sure you support Kataro, Kataaro.com. Use the code WK10 to save 10% off. They're donating half the proceeds right now for this autism awareness belt, but it's not like they're going to stop doing great things because they're Kataro.
Mhm.
And that's why we partner with them because they also do great things. But now, Mama G, what do you want to leave people with today? What are the last things you want to tell them?
Hmm. Okay. If we go back to the story of the Little Mermaid, she gave up her nature
Mm-hmm.
for something that she believed she wanted. Never give up your nature, ever. Even if that thing looks good on the other side, what you and who you are born as is your nature. Don't follow the crowd. Keep your fin. Don't worry about the legs. Swimming is better.